Hi, welcome to Randy's Garage. I want to take some time and show you about a 2004 Dodge Dakota, and I've replaced the heater core. So this video is going to be a short video to give you a summary of the things that I've learned along the way, and it would be to replace a heater core or an evaporator core. So a couple things. I did do some looking on the internet. I got some manuals, and I went to the library, did a lot of researching because I wasn't able to find a good video that really laid stuff out. So this truck's already back together, but there are some things I learned that I think will be helpful, and I want to try to do a detailed job of pointing those out. So first I want to show the heater core. This is what we replaced. Mine had a leak on the side. 2004 Dodge Dakota. The evaporator core was okay, but it was recommended to me that be replaced at the same time. So I did go ahead and replace that. The heater core or the evaporator core was $108 at AutoZone, and the heater core was $52. I also picked up a manual that is from the AutoZone. It was $25. It was for my year, 2004 Dakota, but the instructions were not exactly what I needed. I also went to the library and I picked up some other snapshots from Chilton magazines or Chilton manuals. Between all of these things and YouTube videos, I learned a lot of tips, but there was not one video that was exactly like my truck, even though the Dakota of my vintage is supposed to be between 97 and 2004, I think. So they must make some changes along the way. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get into what we had to do. First of all, you need to go and you need to get your evaporator AC broke loose from the auto shop, so you don't dump the refrigerant into the air. My local auto shop did that for me, and he capped it, and then I'll take it back and we'll get it charged up. You also, inside the engine bay, need to then go ahead and disconnect both negative and positive battery terminals so you don't do anything with the airbags. It says leave it disconnected for 2 minutes before you start playing around with the airbags, but just keep that disconnected. While I'm in here, I'll show you that there are four nuts on studs for the heater box. There's one here. Let's see, there's a couple on the other side. Let's see, right here. That's number 2. Number 3, next to a wire harness. And number 4 is you follow this transmission line down. It is, why don't you come under here and look. This is, I had to take, zoom out just a little bit. We ended up taking I didn't actually take off the fender well during the job. Here's the fender well. We actually just bent it up during the project. I was able to pull this and get my arm up in there to hold it, but it got cut up pretty good. The reason I ended up taking it out is because, I'll tell you in a little bit why that was. Well, we found a bunch of rust in here as well. So right in here, this is the transmission fill tube, or the check tube for the dipstick, and right there's a nut, and it's a bear to get at. You can't get a socket on it. You can't get a box and wrench on it because it doesn't fit between the bolt and the tube. So you have to go by feel. I couldn't even do it by sight. Some people had said they had sawzalled it off. Maybe if you got to this point you could sawzall it off with the fender well off, but it was a bear to get at. The fender well doesn't come out real easy. It's got some rivets that you can't reuse, so I'll have to buy some new rivets for that. Okay, so we got this stuff pointed out here. We got the battery disconnected, we got the AC done. Now, let's go inside and show what we had to do here. You can just stay there, I'll go on the other side. So the entire dash has to come out of here. The entire dash and the steering column. Some people said the steering column didn't have to come out. I didn't find that to be the case, and so what I would recommend is just to know that the steering column's got to come, all the harnesses come out, the entire dash comes out. If you're doing it solo, you maybe could get by just rotating the dash down and not actually taking it out and putting it in the bed or putting it somewhere else. But I had a friend, my dad was here, and we hauled it out. It made a whole lot more room. I don't know if you could keep it leaned down against the seat and actually get to the box. There are 2 screws that hold the heater box to the firewall. So they've got the 4 nuts on the inside of the engine bay and 2 here on the inside of the cab. You cannot replace the heater core or the evaporator core without actually removing that box, though. There's just the sheet metal of the firewall comes up over the top, and there's a bunch of screws that split the heater box that you just couldn't get at if you didn't take it out. So the heater box has to come out, and I would just, you got all the wires disconnected. The only wires you might be able to keep connected if you didn't take the dash all the way out was the left hand side fuse block. There's a bunch of wires there that you maybe could leave connected if you did not remove the dash from the inside. So this is the way roughly it would go. These handles need to come off with the Torx. This A-pillar molding comes out because it's got a little finger that goes down into a slot of this defroster shield that runs all the way across. So might as well just take those off right in the beginning. This defroster piece comes out with it's just snapped in there. I did actually end up breaking mine a little bit. It's the only part that I ended up breaking, but it's sees a lot of sun. It's pretty brittle. You get a screwdriver down in here and pry it up. It's got these metal press-in tabs. That's what all the dash is held in with as well, and you can just pop it up. Once you get this out, then it comes pretty easy. Just work your way across. Go slow at it. This top piece does not need to come off. The only part of the top piece that needs to come off is there's 2 screws under here. 1 and 2. That has to come out so that you can actually, it's not for the top dash, it's actually for the front bezel for the radio. So once you have the defrost and these A-pillar post out, then this guy here from the radio right here all the way to the other side over by the headlights, this is one piece and it's all held in with snaps. So I got it under one side with a like a molding or like a small crowbar, a screwdriver. Just be careful and pop it out, and then just keep popping it. It'll come. Once you pop that out, there'll be switch wires on the back sides of these HVAC controls. The radio stays put at this point. There's wires back here for the 4-wheel drive. And there's wires for the headlight. You disconnect all those wires. And actually I missed one step. What I would recommend, that's the way I did it, but that this bezel is a little bit hard to get around the cowl for the steering wheel. So I was trying not to take the steering wheel out, but knowing that it has to come out, I would just probably remove that first. And the way you would do that is with this cowl split here in the center. There's 3 screws on the bottom, and take those 3 screws out, take the top off, and then pull the bottom off. Now there's one thing to note here on the tilt wheel, if you have a tilt wheel option. This I saw this on a video from a guy. This tilt wheel, you just pry this back. Okay, it's got a slot and it goes over the lever. So I push it back on. Just slide it, push, snap it in place. Just pop it back. So that was a big help. You have to take that off in order to get this cowl off. Once you get this cowl off, then you can also take these plastic pieces off down here. There's a couple of screws here and here and here, and then there's a couple of snaps up here, so you can snap that out. There's a hood, a park brake release over here that needs to be disconnected. There's the hood release that needs to be disconnected. There's a metal plate down here below the steering column that holds the code reader. That needs to be disconnected with 2 screws. So you're basically just working towards getting the steering column off. Once this lower cowl's off, you can then start disconnecting wire harnesses underneath here. Everything's got to be disconnected, everything. So there's really no use trying to save some. I tried to, but just go with it. Make sure you take some pictures and videos how the harnesses are laid in through the cross member behind here, just so everything fits in together. I took my time. My son did a great job of taking some pictures and video. Who's doing the videoing now and doing a great job, and that was big. That was very helpful. Take this piece out also right in the beginning. There's 2 screws underneath the front, and there's 1 screw underneath the mat in the back. The piece here for where in front of the airbag does not need to come out, so do take the glove box out. There's some screws along the bottom. All these screws, take them out. They're not all the same size, so make sure you know which ones are which. And then this glove box can come out. And once you get the glove box out, you can get to some wire harnesses back for the heater box. Once we have the steering column dropped, or at least this cowl out, then this front fascia here will come out. So I'm kind of going back a little bit because I got out of order a little bit, but you can unhook these harnesses for the HVAC control. Once this piece is out the front, and the glove box is out, you can start unhooking some wires over here. Everything yellow, from my understanding, is airbag, but you still just take them out. These red clip, you would push that red clip like to the left in this picture, and then it only pushes about a 1/2 inch. Then you can push the knob or the little releases on the wire harness plugs. All the harness plugs had some, I think everything is poke yoked, so you can't mess it up. I did put dots different places with the paint pen, so I knew what slots things were going into, and that was helpful. But I think the wire harness themselves, you can't hook up anything wrong. There's a big yellow connector behind here, which is for the airbag. One of the manuals says never disconnect that, but you have to disconnect it, so it was already unplugged, and it seems like that was okay to do. There's some ground wires. Everything you see has to be disconnected. There's 2 bolts down. Okay, let me jump now to the dash. So you basically got stuff, you're getting them disconnected, and now you're ready to pull the dash out. There are 2 bolts. So basically the dash is a big metal frame. That's why it all has to come out, and it doesn't clear the steering column. So that's why the column has to come out. There's 2 bolts down here. You take those off. And then on the right hand side and left hand side, I'll show you on the right, there's a hinge plate here, and it's got a slot. So you just back this bolt off a little bit, a couple turns, and then there's a slot, and it's really convenient because you can kind of pull the dash out a little bit at a time to see what else is not connected, or what's not disconnected. There's also, can you see them yet? Can't see them because I got the cowl in here, but there's 2 bolts behind here. Those hold the metal frame in. Actually, come to the other side here. Come to the other side. That's how easy that comes out, the fuse panel. These 2 bolts here, there's 2 more on the other side. So what holds the entire dash in is these 2, left and right. the ones on the bottom that I just showed on the other side. There's another one here. And then once you have this defrost shroud out, I think there's 5 or 6 small screws across the front that need to be connected. And then the dash is free. And we found out that it doesn't really start to tip back because that slot, we'll go back to this hole. This bolt is actually sitting in a vertical slot right now. So it doesn't actually tip back, but if you push it up, get on the bottom side and push up on it, then that bracket will slide vertically up, and then that bolt can come down. So it took us a few minutes to figure that out. Once that's rolled back into its back position, I had one person here sit on the inside of the car, just kind of rested the dash against their legs because it didn't have enough room to go all the way down. And while it's resting on his legs, we unhooked some other harnesses and did the fuse block and that sort of stuff. It's not heavy though. It's a little awkward taking it out of here. So I think that's about it. Oh yeah, scoot the seats back all the way back. You don't need to take them out. Some people said that they recommend taking them out. I thought it was nice to have them in here because you sit down a lot, and otherwise you have to sit on a bucket or something. So remember, the dash comes out 100%, steering column comes out, scoot the seats back, and there's a chance if you're working solo, you might be able to get the heater box out, maybe, by just setting this down and get the heater box past it. I don't know about that for sure. So I think that's it. I hope that you that this has been helpful, and you know, I was quoted about $800 from 2 different places, not dealerships. They'd be even more yet, I'm sure. So I didn't have too much in parts, but it did take. I think we had about 10 hours getting it out, and about 3 or 4